and death. And people would rather speak in public than talk about death. So just a bit of housekeeping here. In case of an emergency or extreme emotional overload, the exits are in the rear and to the side. It's not labeled. Don't go this way. And if you can't get out and you have to stay and listen to this, we'll have attendants circulating through the room with earplugs for sale. They're $6 each, and you will probably want a pair, unless you only want to half listen. And we take credit card only. So let's get busy. Let's talk about this. So what is it that we're talking about? What is grief, loss, heartache? It's a natural response that we have to loss of any kind. Loss of trust, loss of a job, many hundreds of different experiences. And everyone's experience is unique. So we don't get to be where we are today as adults and not have experienced loss or many losses in our life. I used to say I was shy. That was a story I told. I'm the father of a dead child. That was a story I told myself. Does it have to be that way? I can't change the events of the past, but I can change my relationship to those events. And grief, sorrow, doesn't go away by itself. There's a false claim that time heals all wounds. It doesn't. It just makes it, we just become used to it. So I told you that I was withdrawn when I was a child. When I was 9 years old, I found my father passed out in the car. And they dragged him out of the car and took him off to the hospital. And the kids were whisked away somewhere else. And eventually my mother came in and her response was, "Your father's gone." That was it. That's how we deal with it. Your father's gone, time to move on. My uncle told me, "You're the man in the house now, you got to take care of your mom." And then he added, "Don't worry too much. He didn't suffer. It was just as if he went to sleep." And it wasn't until I started doing this work 15 years ago that I discovered why I had trouble sleeping all of my life. These are the stories that each and every one of us take in from our childhood and we bring them forward into adulthood. Unconsciously, mostly. And when you're a child, you don't have the cognitive abilities to sort all of that out. Anger. Oh, anger is one way to keep people away. When I was doing the therapy thing, my therapist told me I was like hugging a cactus. It's very effective at keeping people away from you. Because I had so many loss events, I felt abandoned. I felt like people were betraying me. So how do you stop that? You put up a wall. In my case, it was cactus. I like cactus. We can't change the events. As much as we wish we could, we can't change events. But we can change how we view the events. I'm going to go back to the first one. quite personal. My daughter, many of you know, died of cancer. And it was the most horrific thing that ever happened to me. Having to sit at her bedside as she passed. And it took me about 11 years to get to the point where I can say, and it's honest, it was the most magical event of my life. I am so blessed to have been chosen to be her father, to guide her through her experience, and her passing was mystical. Now that's changing how I view the events. And that was a lot of hard work. It was more than a lot of hard work. And it's what we teach in our workshops, and I wrote it in the book. This is what saved my life. Because somebody asked me after I went through all of that, how come you're so happy? Well, sometimes I'm happy. I mean, some of you know I'm pretty grumpy, but that's just a facade too. And I had to think about it, and I go, what did I do? So I wrote it down. Your healing isn't dependent on anyone else. And this is when my wife and I separated, and your friends start choosing up sides, who's right and who's wrong, and they were saying that, she, and I got it just like boom, like that. Wait a minute, that's not helping me at all. Revenge doesn't help me. Bad talking someone else doesn't help me. And I became very selfish. I want to live and be happy. And I actually made a statement was, I'm either going to find the secret to happiness or I'm going to die. And I don't care which one. Well, I'm still here, so I guess I found the secret to happiness. And I wrote it in the book, and it's only $10. And there's no magic to it. Healing is your willingness to do the work necessary to release yourself from the past. In school we call it healing is the application of loving to the parts inside that hurt. So you don't get better by beating other people up, including yourself. You get better by learning to love who you are, no matter who you are. And I guarantee you that every one of us in this room and everywhere else, at their core, is a loving person. And you don't need to learn how to be loving. You just need to learn how to release the garbage that we put on ourselves. I don't do rules. I hate rules. You break a rule, you get in trouble. And then it's all over. But a guideline, if you get off, you just get back on track. So you got to commit to yourself to do this work. This means on the physical level, on the mental level, on the emotional level, which is most of what we do in the workshops, and whatever your spiritual connection is to you. This is like, duh, do more of what works and less of what doesn't. And we have to remind ourselves to do that because we're creatures of habit. I walk down the same street every day and fall in the same hole. I'm just used to it. If it doesn't work, try something different. This is an attitude towards life. Use everything for your growth and learning. Life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. Use it. What can I learn from it? How can I grow from it? How can I be a better person from this? And practice the art of inner peace. And that's releasing that loving heart that's inside each and every one of us. In closing, be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Healing is an active process. It takes intention, attention, and time.